My name is Matthew Connor. I am the founder and CEO of Cyberlinks and the host of the Cyber Business Podcast. My life before the podcast, it was a sad and dark place. I mean, honestly, it was in terms of sales and meeting people. It was so much harder. The podcast has opened up so many doors and that just otherwise wouldn't open up. So my process for the podcast is that basically for about I don't know the time that it takes to do the interview, which is generally somewhere around 30 to 45 minutes. We've had some that go longer, but those are a blessing. That's about the only time investment for the podcast. The outreach is initially it was mostly in my head. I didn't think people would respond nearly as positively and as quickly and easily as they have. And maybe that's because, initially when there weren't many podcasts, people didn't see that, or again, maybe it was just all head trash for me. But as I've gotten more comfortable with it, which only took about a month or so, I'd say my outreach time went from maybe I was spending initially about an hour a week kind of obsessing over who exactly I should invite to now 2-3 minutes. I'll go and say, oh, I'd love to have this company as a client. And then I'll send out a LinkedIn, request, inviting them on the podcast, and that's it. And so very quickly, we get a response and get them on the show. Now that I've been doing the podcast, I think, the biggest change has been that prospects who weren't clients, who had gone completely dark, have come back and asking for services that we don't even, that we barely ever even sell because it's not kind of a leading service for us. So they've asked beyond just the initial, kind of foot in the door service. They've asked for, kind of the ancillary kind of premium services that we don't even think to, hey, let's open up the door with that. So now it's changed it to where we think, hey, maybe we should start leading with these services, whereas before it wasn't even an option. So I think that was one of the big changes. In terms of connections, there's no comparison. Without the podcast, almost 100% of the connections that we've made from the podcast, we would not have made otherwise. There's simply I can't see a way of bridging that divide any other way. Not with a cold call, not with email, to put in the time, the work, the energy, the effort to try to figure out, well, they're a part of this organization. Let me join that organization, try to get an introduction and get there. That's a ton of old school effort to meet one person. Whereas now it's click, click, boom, they're on the podcast and we've now established a relationship. I mean, just remarkable. My experience with this podcast so far has been spectacular. It has exceeded my expectations in terms of the results, the amount of effort I've had to put in, which is much less than I expected. And I'd say the biggest surprise, besides the clients and the revenue that it generated, is probably how much more I enjoy it than I thought that I would. I didn't think it would be anywhere close to what it is. I thought it would be one of those things that I would just, chug through it. I'll make it. It'll be fine. I don't like, being on camera. I've always been kind of camera shy. It's not even an issue for me. I absolutely love the podcast. It's become the favorite part of my week is that podcast interview. It's just fun. It's easy. It's comfortable. It creates these connections. Yeah, it's invaluable.